Hi, everyone. Dragonfly Rising's School of Data proudly presents the AI Demystified for Executives podcast. This is the podcast for executives who want to learn how to apply AI to their business. I'm your host, Andrew Psaltis. This week's topic is RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, making AI systems business ready. Common concern that you may have in a question is, how do we make AI use our business data? So we've talked in previous episodes about the background of GPT, a little bit on large language models, some of the historical context, and I'm sure you've heard about how these are all trained on the corpus of the internet, but they're not trained on your business data. Retrieval Augmented Generation, RAG for short, and we'll just call it RAG, gives you an opportunity to actually have the model use your business data. It's not going to use your data for training, but using your data for being able to make decisions. So let's briefly walk through in the time we have today of how this works and why this matters for you. When we talked in previous episodes about vector databases, and we talked about how they're used for natural language search, which is a fantastic way of using them, one of the other key things we talked about was giving large language models or other AI systems their memory. This is an opportunity where you use your business data, if you will, as this memory and as this context. Let's take an example that you are providing a chat application for your field support team and your field engineers to be able to repair equipment in the field. So you may have hundreds of different product documents, all these different PDFs, and you want to provide them the ability to have a chat GPT-like experience, but using your documents. So the way that you make this work, and this is where RAG comes into play, is as I'm a technician in the field and I enter into a text box, I'm trying to understand what to do with a power failure of this piece of equipment. When they enter that, the next thing that you do from the software standpoint is you go and retrieve the documents from a vector database that is related to what they're asking. From there, you take those documents. This is now called the context. You give that context along with the user's prompt to the model, GPT or another model. You give it the prompt that the technician typed in along with the content, and ask it to provide the results based upon all of this content you just gave it. It'll then use its language and reasoning skills to look at the documents that you provided as the context, along with the prompt, and craft the response. Okay, so you could think about this as a hop in the middle, if you will. So it's the interaction from the end user with your application, with this AI system. You then get the most relevant information from a vector database. That's the retrieval and augmented. You pass that information to the model to have it do its generation, and then it goes back to the user. So we're getting the model to use your business data that it was never trained on. And it won't be trained on the data you pass into it, but you're providing it your data on the fly as the user interacts. You may be thinking that there's another option I've heard about to do fine tuning. And with fine tuning, I could do the same thing. I could give the model my data. And with that, I could end up with my fine-tuned model that has now been enhanced with my business data. There may be cost differences, could be significant between fine-tuning and RAG. There's also the latency of having to tune the model. And you could think about the case of if your system is multi-tenant and servicing multiple types of customers, multiple use cases, you may not want to have a fine-tuned model for every single one, right? So RAG allows you to pull out your data, if you will, and keep that separate and be able to let your data, whether that is customer support, technical documents, whatever that may be, your domain-specific data, keep that separate and then pass that in real time to the model. Another way that you could use this is perhaps we weren't doing this for supporting field engineers, but you want to have all the chat conversations that a customer had with your AI system. You could store all of the chat conversations. All the transcripts could be stored in this vector database, which is what RAG uses. Store it there, and now you use that context with the model. So if you think about this, of how do you make these AI systems business ready by really using your domain data, RAG is the way that you do that. So again, Retrieval Augmented Generation. We're doing retrieval first to augment the model, and then it does its generation. So think about you type into a text box, whatever that may be, or some way you're interacting with the system, and you're going to grab your domain data. You're going to pass that to the model. That's called its context. And you're going to ask the model to do its magic, if you will, quote unquote, to use its language generation skills and reasoning with the prompt passed in and this other context. A nice thing about this, besides just the fact that it is using your data to generate a good response, is this helps eliminate hallucinations as well. Because now we're helping ground the model and give it the source of truth and the data that it's to operate with. So you could specify to the model to use this prompt and only use the data provided as context when it is creating its response. We could have the model use your domain data and really help these systems become business ready. That's our quick bites for this high-level overview of RAG. Tune into our next episode where we're going to go into this in a bit more detail and pull back the covers a little bit more so you have a deeper understanding as to how this works, some of the options that are there, and help you further realize how you may be able to apply this to your business. Please remember to subscribe to wherever you're listening to this podcast so you stay up to date. And never hesitate to reach out to ask any questions that you may have. Thanks. That's all for now.